this was Callie's idea. She wanted to do like a Dear Skyleigh format and people could ask questions and then we could answer them. And it could come from like all different perspectives, whether that's like getting into real estate, if you're on the buyer side, if you're on the seller side, if you're like a realtor already in the industry and you have questions. Anyways, I actually have no idea what questions have been asked. So fingers crossed that I know the answer. And I think, Cal, we decided that like it was kind of open for like discussion as well. Cause obviously like in the business world, it's not always black and white. Like it can be very gray in different areas on how people operate and like the different way to tackle things. So anyways, if anyone wants to add value, I'm totally game for that. Let's do it, Cal. What's your first question?
So yeah, I thought this would be a fun thing to bring into the collaborative mastermind, not have like a specific topic for the meeting, but just kind of have it open to like either people who are interested in getting into the real estate industry, whether that be a mortgage broker or a real estate agent, and then also open it up to people who are buying or selling or thinking about buying or selling. A lot of times people have questions and they're just kind of like too embarrassed to actually reach out to a professional to get the answer. So I thought this would be like easier way for people to get their questions answered. And then again, for people who are already in the industry, but might have questions for other people who are already a real estate agent, maybe they're struggling with something. And I thought it was just a nice way for us to connect and get different perspectives on things. So first question, Skyleigh, that I have saved here. This must be from another real estate agent. They said, my clients have really unrealistic expectations of their house value. That's all they wrote. So I'm guessing they mean, how would you approach this problem if you have clients that think their house is worth $1 million, but you know it's worth 600,000? Like, how do you navigate that?
I mean, obviously different, like personalities are obviously different as well. I truly believe that the job of the realtor is not to, like, I don't get to decide the price of your home. Like there's a lot of people out there that always say, oh, the reason that the real estate market's so crazy is because realtors are like listing the houses too low or they're listing them too high. And like the fact is, it's like all supply and demand, right? So I strongly believe that we are supposed to advise our clients and give them our opinion. But then at the end of the day, it is their home and that they do get to decide. That being said, I do focus very heavily on education around the market. I do actually have a client right now who is also insistent that the price of houses aren't worth what they're worth. And I totally get that. The issue is that everything is supply and demand. Obviously, there is going to be less of a demand for a house that is priced above what fair market value is saying. So I always like fair market value is whatever a buyer is willing to pay for a house. So whenever we price homes, we go into the database and we look at three things. Number one, you're going to look at the fact, you're going to look at square footage, you're going to look at the similar areas, and you're going to look at finishings. So if someone says my house is worth 800,000 and you're really in the your house is really like in the $500,000 range. Number one, I'm not going to beat you up over that because I mean, a lot of people have a lot of emotionally invested in their homes and they're not going to hire you if you beat them up. So I don't do that. If you do hold their hand and walk them through like why and let them see the information for themselves, I do feel like it's easier to get across to them when they make the decision themselves that it's actually not worth what they originally thought that it was worth. So when we pull comparables and we kind of go over them together, I'm going to say like, okay, this house, similar area, similar square footage. Do you think your house is nicer than this one, or not as nice as this one? And then I'll let them decide because we obviously want to plot it on, I'm going to call it a graph. It's not a graph, but if you lay out every single house that is sold recently and their finishings, your house is going to fall somewhere on that line. And that's really where your price is going to be dictated. So I always kind of go through them one by one and then let them really set into the fact that your house is not as nice as this one, or it is as nice as this one, or it's better than this one. And then that's really where the price falls. But I rely heavily on education and like giving people the information so they can make the decision for themselves, because otherwise you are like butting heads with your client. And I would rather like, I always use this analogy. I'm like, I don't want to like pull someone. I'd rather like walk with them. if that makes sense. Anyways, does anyone have anything they want to add to that?
Spencer, do you find that you run into that a lot? Or is it usually like people are looking to you to be like, tell me what it's worth?
I go through like a house and I'm doing a CMA, which is like a comparative market analysis. I always kind of ask them a couple questions to kind of figure out where they are at with their house. So I'm like, yes, I'm in the market all the time. However, at the same time, if you have a house in a certain area and you're like thinking about selling, the likelihood is that you're like watching the houses around you. It's like when you get a new car and then all of a sudden everyone's driving that dang car. Like it's at the top of your mind. So whenever I go in to someone's house and I'm doing a comparative market analysis for them, I always ask them, I'm like, look, like I am obviously in the market every day. I have seen a lot of these homes. I was like, but I want to know, because you've been tracking the homes in your area, where do you think that your house falls compared to the other ones like around you? And like, if you could wave a magic wand, like what would you want for your home? And then we would see if they were kind of on the same like range as to what I think it is, without me telling them first. Like I always kind of like want to feel out where they're at. It does happen. It's not usually too far-fetched, to be honest. Like it's not completely out of the realm. I think the bigger issue is that sometimes you get somebody who wants more than one realtor to come through, which is normal. I do agree people should shop around, but I don't think you should shop around for like, who's going to give me the highest price point, because just because a realtor tells you a price point doesn't mean it's going to sell for that. Right? You should shop around for the fact that you want to find a realtor that has the services that you're looking for, has the personality type that you're looking for, because not everyone's personalities blend. So you need to find someone that you like jive with and that they have good services, not that they're going to give you the highest dollar value for your home. Because again, at the end of the day, fair market value is what a buyer is willing to pay, not what a realtor marks it at. But the issue, the reason I'm telling you that is that the issue that pops up that I've had a couple times is that they want to hire the realtor with the highest dollar value. So I have asked them that question too. I'm like, oh, are you interviewing more than one realtor? Are you thinking that you're going to go with the realtor with the highest price for your home? Stuff like that. And if they do say yes, again, it's all kind of education. But I did have one situation last year where they ended up saying that their house was worth like 90,000 more than what I said. And so we went through them line by line, and I told them to, I was like, look, it's your home. You can list it for whatever you want. At the end of the day, I'm going to work my ass off for you to get you as much money as possible. I was like, but the market is going to determine what someone is willing to pay. And I was like, if we listed at this and it doesn't sell for this right away, we need a game plan to like correct this before your listing goes stale. So like we did put it on for more than what I suggested, less than the other realtor suggested. But then after 10 days and it was crickets, we did like a $30,000 price reduction, like very quickly. Anyways, I don't know if that answered your question or if I went off on a tangent, but either way.
Alicia, did you have anything to add to that?
I'm like the opposite. I have buyers who basically want an $800,000 house for $500,000.
Yeah, I have one client like that right now. That's the one that I was saying. She's just like, nothing's working.
So hard because they just keep saying like, we'll wait and the perfect home will come. And like, yes, it will, but just depends how long they're okay waiting for. And, you know, they're like, things are going to pop up and the market's crashing. And then, you know, in the spring, we're going to have all the people who overpaid. And I'm like, well, no, you're not going to see those sales for another 4 or 5 years. Anyone remortgaging in the next year or two has equity in their home. Like they're just not seeing it that way. They want champagne taste on a beer budget.
I have a couple of those too. And you know what's scary about all that? And I keep trying to talk to them about it. I'm going to have to find some market data around this, because I strongly believe, I mean, we obviously don't have a crystal ball, but I do strongly believe that the market is going to like stabilize in the new year, because 99% of our clients are saying that they're going to wait till the new year or wait till spring.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone comes back in the new year and in spring. That means the prices are going to be stable, because actually people buying. Right now it's crickets. So like right now would be the time that you are going to get your best deal, because if people come back, now all of a sudden the market's like you're competing.
You're back in competition. Like they don't see that. Or they just like, but then, you know, we're probably going to be having this conversation in spring and they're going to be like, well, we should have bought back in. And you're going to be like, yeah, you probably should have, but
if we only had a crystal ball, like everyone needs to stop doing what everyone else is doing, because that's what dictates the market, right? It's the same thing with like talk about, oh, we're going to go into a recession. We're going to go into a recession. And I'm like, we're going to go into a recession because of human behavior, all fearing each other and stopping. It's all based around education. Like the more you know, the less scary it is. But you see, like you can see all these people doing the same thing.
Somebody just got to break the mold. Like, just go. If you love the house, buy it. The flip side is then everyone's also like, well, interest rates are up, so we're going to wait till those come down. It's like, okay, like you have to understand we've actually just been like super lucky the last how many years that our rates have been down. Like they don't see all the puzzle pieces. And when you try to give it to them, they just kind of take what they want to hear from it.
I took psychology. Right after I graduated from high school, I went to university and I was going to be a psychologist. There is a phenomenon called cognitive dissonance. And that's exactly what it is, where it's like people only will take the information that solidifies their current belief and they like disconnect from everything else because it doesn't actually serve what they believe. Anyways, it happens for everything. But I remember that very clearly because I was like so fascinated with it. Because then you have like, not arguments, but like you do, if you're open to like all these things and then you talk to someone who is very like set in their ways about something, it's funny how like the human brain works. And then now I can see, and I'm like, ooh, you're that phenomenon. Anyways, Cal, what's the next one?
Are the interest rates going to go down anytime soon? And are you seeing more variable interest rates or fixed?
It always depends on like other factors are coming to the market and how the entire economy is like responding to the rates, whether they'll come down or not. Because at the beginning of the year, we didn't forecast that we knew that they were going to go up, but we didn't forecast that they were going to come up this high because Russia hadn't happened yet. Like that issue hadn't happened. And so that's something that drove them up along with inflation. It's tough to say when they're going to come down. Originally, I think we thought that they were going to come down earlier in 2023, and now they're saying they're going to hold for throughout 2023. It really just depends on what happens going forward. And there's so many factors that could change what is forecasted right now. So I'm recommending to clients is doing a 2 or 3 year fixed rate if they're unsure about variable. I think we are close to the top. I always think variable can be a good idea, but there definitely is going to be a bit more fluctuation still. So if you're not confident in that variable rate, then go fixed. But variable rate, I think, is always a good option as long as you're not stressed by fluctuations in it.
Someone is getting a mortgage at the rate it is right now, and they have a little bit of wiggle room to go up just a little bit, then
My daughter is sick and crying, so I'm just going to go grab her. Sorry.
Sorry. Everyone is so sick right now. It's crazy. Like there was a huge decrease in the amount of kids going to school over the last month, like a big drop. Like a lot of the classes are like half empty.
Yeah. I don't even know what I have anymore because it's just been lingering. I'm not super sick, and I really haven't been this entire time, but it's just stuck in my chest. I don't get it.
What's the next one?
Have you ever had to fire a client? How do you deal with that while staying professional?
Yes, but I feel like when that happens, it's not just you who it's not working for. It's not working for them either. So when you fire someone, I feel like it's not really that you're firing someone. It's more that you're just it is a tough conversation. However, I wouldn't call it necessarily firing someone. I would definitely call it more of splitting ways. Typically, I would think that the person on the other side isn't super happy either. If you aren't getting along with someone, you're butting heads constantly, the likelihood is that they're also not jiving. I do strongly believe that there are different types of people in the real estate world to help all different types of people in the consumer world. So it's funny because my cousin, he's a carpenter, and he was I should get into real estate and da 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 da. And I was like, you should. And then he was like, no, I don't have the personality for it and this. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, yeah, I don't fit the realtor, whatever. And I was like, there is no box. I don't know what you're talking about. There's different personality types for all different clients. Anyways, and just because I don't get along with a certain type of personality type doesn't mean that so-and-so over here isn't going to get along with them, right? So birds of a feather tend to flock together. I do feel that if you are not getting along with your client, it's probably better to say you know what, there's probably a better realtor out there for you. I know that we're not seeing eye to eye on things, and I hate to when we don't see eye to eye and it doesn't feel good to me, and I'm sure it doesn't feel good to you. There's going to be a realtor out there that probably would fit you better. A lot of times when you bring up the conversation, I do feel they're feeling the same way. And then it's very like, I've never had like a not amicable like separation, if that makes sense, because I feel like you can tell when they're not happy and when you're not happy, right? But you do have some like tough conversations for sure, especially around like the market stuff we were talking about. But you can obviously have it in a nice professional way, right? Like I'm on their team. There can be some realtors out there that kind of, it's like a me against them. And like, I never want to operate that way. I always want to operate on the side of like, we're a team and we're like tackling the market together. So if we're not seeing eye to eye on things, I mean, I'm irritated about the market just as much as you are. There's just nothing I can do about it. I hope that answers that question.
Can you give us an example of like why you'd have to fire someone in the past? Go your separate ways.
I mean, there was one client that I had, honestly, they were very unrealistic. And because they were unrealistic, we just didn't really like each other, to be honest. I remember like, which I think is fair. Not everybody has to like each other. But I remember when I was working with these people, I went and showed them a few houses. And then they were talking about how there was mold in the house. And I was like, well, how do you know that there's mold in the house? And she said that she can smell it. And I was like, okay, but like, I was like, I'm pretty sure you smell concrete because there was a concrete basement. And then she was like, no, 100%, you're going to have to remediate this whole place. And she wanted to like tear everything down. And she wanted to like 150,000 less than list price because you can't sell it for this because of all these things. And I'm like, okay, well, like, I understand. I was like, let's get like an air quality test and like get some samples so that we can bring it to the seller and like say, hey, like these are issues. And she's like, no, I don't need a test. I guarantee you there's mold in there. And I'm like, okay, like I get that. I was like, but the seller isn't going to just take our word for it and take 150,000 off the asking price. I was like, what if someone came into your home and said that there was things wrong, but didn't have proof? And then she was mad at me, obviously, because I said that we needed proof. And I'm like, it's not that I don't believe you. It's just that in order for me to help you get to where you want to go, I need some evidence, please. Anyways, and so that's when we ended up parting ways. It was actually like, I was like on my way out with them. It was actually them who pulled the trigger on me, not like me pulling it on them. But that was one of the scenarios where like we were not seeing eye to eye. She wanted me to argue with the seller and the seller's agent to get more money off. And I was like, I can't. I was like, my hands are tied. I was like, I can give them the information that you're giving me and like why you feel this way. I was like, I can't make them take 150 grand off the asking price. Didn't like it.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
For no proof.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. Like, I was like, we need an air quality test to prove it. And she was like, well, I'm not writing an offer and paying air quality test when I know that it's there. So
And she was on that house. Like it wasn't like a let's move on to a different house.
no, she really wanted that one. And the other issue is that we were also in a crazy market. And so someone else was going to come along and pay the price for the house. So I'm like, I don't have any ammo in my pocket to help you get this house for less money. Like there are so many buyers out there that are willing to pay the full amount. And she didn't like what I had to say, is what it is. She's the one who let me go technically, but I was like, thank you, because
you were going to have to let her go if not.
I didn't know what else to tell her. I don't know. Like,
that's not even a big ask either. Like you weren't asking for something crazy and unreasonable.
I don't know what ended up happening. I don't know what house they ended up buying. I have no idea. I'm hoping that they found a house that didn't smell mold and that the agent just had like a easy time with it, because that house did sell and it did sell for more money than what she was willing to pay. And I know she was mad about it. I think she blamed me for it selling for without her buying it too. And I was like, oh. Anyways, that's my example. That's the one that comes to mind when I think about parting ways. And I'm like, you know what? They're better fit for somebody else, which I think is fair.
Most embarrassing story, Realtor edition, ?
Okay, well, two. Number one, I'm trying to think of one. I mean, I don't embarrass easy, but there was one time when it was my very first showing and I was having such very bad anxiety over like opening this lockbox. Oh, actually, I do have another story. I was like, I just had to think about it. Anyways, very first showing I had some serious like heart palpitations because I was trying to open this lockbox and I'd never done it before and my hands were like shaking. Anyways, I got into the lockbox. It was no problem, but that was like terrifying. Alicia, I don't know about you, but like opening your first lockbox, was that just like heart attack happening or what?
No, not so much the first lockbox, but one time I went to a showing and you know Cam Keen?
Yeah.
He's like 6 foot something. I'm like under 5 feet. I get to the lockbox and he's got it on the railing so high up that I can't actually see the serial number on the top.
Oh yeah, I've had that a lot too.
And so I'm like trying to on my tiptoes basically see this serial number, and I'm like, my clients, they're an older couple, like sweet as pie, thank God. And the husband came and he had to like read me the number on the serial number on the lockbox so I could get it open.
You're like, can I get a stepping stool?
I sent Cam a picture. I was like, this is not acceptable.
And I've had that too. I'm 5'.
He's like, I didn't even think about that. I'm like, you wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't. No, but I'm 5'3" and I have a hard time. So,
And I honestly was like, it took me a while to even find it because I was like scanning, and then it was like up here.
Yeah.
It was just like not in my, normally it's down. You're like down in the snow on the ground. I was like, never thought to look up. And so it was like slightly embarrassing. It took me a while to find it. And then I'm like, I need you for a minute to come help me. So we can get to the house.
So funny
About it, but it was just like, oh God.
Yeah. I had, actually, speaking of lock boxes, there was one realtor that put the lockbox inside the garden. It was like a fence where the garden was in front of it, and then the fence was like behind the garden. Anyways, I don't like bugs, you guys. Like, I am not a bug person. And there's fucking earwigs on the lockbox, and I was having a heart attack about it. So I like kicked it a few times to like.
You're like, yeah, you don't want this house.
Oh my God, I knocked them a couple times, like kicked it to knock the bugs off. And then I went to open it. And as I opened it, there was earwigs in it. And I had to get my client to grab the key. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I don't like bugs. Like, it was disgusting. I was having a heart attack.
As long as you have a good relationship, those are generally, they turn out fine and you can laugh about it, but it's like.
It wasn't like embarrassing. I mean, it is, but it isn't, because I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, we did know each other. Like, at that point, it wasn't the very first showing that I had, but it was not good. But this is actually, I don't know if this is embarrassing, but it was pretty awful. Oh my God. I feel so bad for these people that they had to do this for me, but they never even ended up buying a house for me, as funny as it is, because they was like needle in a haystack type people. Like, they just having a hard time finding what they want. Very lovely people. There was nothing wrong with like our relationship. It's just like we couldn't find what they were looking for in the price point they wanted. But anyways, I went out to Barrier Lakes Road with them, and we were looking at a couple places, and there's no cell phone service. Learned my lesson very hard. I ended up having my phone. So I always use my phone in order to, I'm trying to think what happened, because this was a long time ago and now I don't remember. So there's no cell phone service. I used to use the key card to get in and out of the lockbox. Anyways, and so I had my key card on my keys, and I put my keys down on the table inside, and then we left, and I closed the lockbox. I locked my keys inside, and I had my phone, but there's no cell phone service to use the app in order to get back into the house in order to get my keys so that we could leave. And so I had to have them drive me back and forth like 3 times so that they needed to drive me into Barrier to get cell phone service, to call the agent, to get a code for the lockbox. And then I had to drive back. Actually, first we tried breaking into the house. That didn't work. And we went back and forth like 4 times or whatever, because first I didn't get the serial number to get a 1-day code, because I was like, oh, the agent will know what lockbox is on their house, because usually people keep track of their lockboxes in the serial numbers. So I was newer, so I didn't realize I needed a serial number. Like, again, lesson learned. But anyway, so we went into town, called the agent. They're like, well, I don't know the serial number for that lockbox. We had to drive all the way back out there, get the serial number, drive all the way back into service to get a 1-day code, and then come all the way back to unlock the dang lockbox so that I could get my damn keys out of the house. That was like...
Please tell me it wasn't Kathy Campbell.
No, I think it
Oh
was.
my goodness.
No, it wasn't. She would have been freaking mad though.
Oh, yeah.
It was Oli Jensen.
Oh, okay.
Which, like, I get along with Oli super well. He actually sold my parents their first house when we lived in Clearwater, which was like a long time ago. He's been a realtor for so long. Anyway, so we get along because he knows my parents and stuff. And like, I used to live in Clearwater and stuff. But anyway, so he didn't know the lockbox number. And then I went back and forth so many times. I was so embarrassed. I was like, I can't happening right now. Other thing that is not embarrassing for us, but I think it's super weird, is that I have walked in on people in the house a number of times, like in their bed, or like they're sleeping and you open the door and there's like a sleeping, or like just stuff like that. And I find it so weird. And I almost walked in on a woman naked, because I guess, yeah, you guys have your weird face. Okay. So listing agent told her the showing was on a different day. So
Wait, I had the exact same situation.
So I went in and I heard I could hear something. I thought it was a Roomba. I was like, man, what is that noise? And then my client and I were looking at each other and I'm like, knocking and I'm like yelling hello. And no one was coming. Turned out it was a hair dryer and she was blow drying her hair naked. I never walked in on her, but it was very close because I just kept knocking. And as soon as I heard we just stayed out of the bedroom. And as soon as the blow dryer went off, I like said hello and like did a weird knock again. We kind of looked at other things and then she came out and was like, oh my God, like I thought it was a different day and I'm so sorry. And she was like, thank God you didn't come into my room. Like, yeah. Anyways, I was like, that would have been really, really unfortunate.
Mine was very similar. We went to the house and we knocked on the door and like nobody answered and I was waiting and then I thought I heard somebody inside. So I was like, okay, well, maybe she's just like late getting out. And she like opens the door and she's standing there in just a t-shirt. And she's like, I'm like, oh, we're here for the showing. She's like, oh, I thought that was next Sunday. And I'm like, no, it's today. And she was like, yeah. And she like looks down. She's like, now's not really a good time. I'm like, I gathered that.
Who opened the door or did she open the door?
She opened it.
In her
And I'm
underwear?
like, not even, just a t-shirt.
Oh my God, that's so
It was
funny.
long, but it was like, okay. And then she's like, yeah, so maybe next week. I'm like, sure. See you then.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah, it's definitely awkward when stuff like that happens. And it does happen like more often than you would like.
Well, it was more awkward because she like obviously didn't take the time to put pants on. And then like didn't even like open the door and stick her head out. Like she opened it and like kind of half stepped out. You could have just stuck your head out and told me that it wasn't a good time, but that's fine.
That's so funny. Yeah. And then I have had a number of tenants not leave. And they're like laying in bed, like sleeping or like whatever. And I'm like, this is so awkward.
I can attest to that, to like how weird it is to go into an open or like a house when the tenants are home, like if it's rental, like when I came with you and your clients. It was so weird. You're just like so used to it. You're just like, and over here is this and that. And there was like probably like 3 or 4 of them home.
Yeah,
Like,
it was weird. It is weird, but I've done it so much that I'm just like, you know what? Let's just get in, get out. Because like otherwise you're like tiptoeing around them and it's like weird. And so I don't know. I've just not that I've gotten aggressive about it, but I've definitely gotten like, I don't tiptoe anymore. I'm like, pull the clients in. I'm like, let's look at it. Look at everything you want to look at and let's get out. Because toe and ask for permission to look in everything. And I don't know, it just takes longer. And it's just, I mean, they're the ones who are there for the showing when really it's off. Like, I don't know. But yeah, it was a very dirty house, that one too. Hey, Cal?
it
Like,
was
so dirty.
how all the onions, like they had like so many onions on the ground and like throwing them on like a pile.
Yeah, like the crunchy pieces that like fall off your onion were like all over the floor. Weird.
It was pretty rough. Oh, and then we go down to the basement and we're like, is someone in the bed? Like it literally looked like if a kid's trying to sneak out and they like roll up like blankets underneath the blanket. We thought they were for sure sleeping.
Is this a townhouse on Summit by chance?
No, this was again McKean's listing, and it was up on what's that street called? I have clients that live on that street. Like you're going up Aberdeen Drive and then you take a right off Aberdeen Drive, and it's like lots of the houses have really steep driveways.
Townhouse though?
No, it was a single family house.
Okay.
Oh, it's on the tip of.
Not Sifton.
No, it's higher than that. Like it's you go up Aberdeen, like you go all the way up Highway 5A, and then you take a right onto Aberdeen Drive. Like the first left after you cross the meridian, you hop up onto this one section.
Drummond.
Thank you. That is it. Yeah, it was like a very rough house, but you know what? Like the houses like that, that's a nice area, and it was the dumpiest house on the block. Those are the ones people have to go for. It took a while.
I went into that one.
Yes, you did. That was the one that Mayor Vic wrote.
Oh my gosh, it was so disgusting.
Like at one point it was a decent house. At one point. You could tell. But it had renters in it for a long time that didn't care about it.
But the owner lived in the basement.
Yeah.
And that was cleaner. No cleaner. Ugh.
Next one. We only have like 15 minutes left. How many do you have a bunch left? I mean, I know you wanted to do this more often, but
Yeah, I got a few, but we'll just save some for next month or something. New agent here. Is there anything you would do differently in hindsight? Is there anything that has come with a job that you weren't expecting?
first off, yes, the freaking real estate world is significantly different than I thought that it was going to be. Alicia, I don't know about you, but when you got in the industry, I had no idea it was going to look way. I'm very happy with my decision, but it's a lot different than I thought.
Yeah, like I just got fully licensed in March, and it was bittersweet because first week of March I got licensed and I got my first listing about 3 weeks later, which was really cool. It was also the start of the insane market. So I listed the condo and pretty much that day was like bombarded. It was like showing after showing after showing. And you can't have a lockbox on that complex.
That
So
was Harrison, wasn't it?
yeah, the keys had to be at the office, or I pretty much like spent my day running around, catching up to people, getting keys delivered. We went into multiple offers after like 24 hours. I just like remember calling my broker every like few hours and being like, okay, it's less and less fun. It was really exciting to get a showing, and then we got an offer, and then it was like, we're still getting showings and we're still getting offers. And I was just like, oh God, like, no, we need to slow down because like this was not, there was no preparation for this. I'm glad though that I came into that market and now we're slowing down and not the other way around. Like I feel like I came in hair straight back, and now I can settle down and kind of focus on the things that I want to focus on and fine tune things. Whereas if it was the other way around, I don't know that I would have been able to handle, or I might not have handled it as well.
Like when I first started, I started 6.5 years ago, and it wasn't like a crazy market. It was very like balanced. Slowly got to this. Well, I mean, obviously we're in like a more balanced market now again, but when I first started, it was balanced, and then it's escalated into like a buyer's market, or sorry, a seller's market. Because the inventory had been consistently going down time after time after time. And I remember like the brokerage I was at, we talked about it every week, and I'm like, man, there's less and less listings and more and more buyers. And then in COVID and the frenzy that happened there. So it's kind of weird. Like I've been through like this huge transition of the markets, and it is weird being in both sides. It's weird that you've actually gone through two different like markets in some amount of time, because I've done that too, but mine's been like very long, I guess.
Yeah, it was very like hot and cold, very drastic.
Yeah, you got like slammed into both really quickly. I don't think I would have changed anything. I started on a team. Actually, I started on two teams. So I was on one team for 2.5 years, and then I went on to another one for 2.5 years, or 2 years-ish. And then now I've been running Forever Kamloops for, I don't know, at least like another 2.5 years. And I feel like anything that didn't work, I always think is like a step in the right direction, because I feel like in order to be successful, you need to have failure. So I don't regret anything, if that makes sense, because I feel like anything that you do fail at is like a stepping stone to get you to the future, right? And like how you end up building something better is that you have to break something and then fix it to make it better. So I don't regret anything that I did. It's definitely a lot different than I thought. Funny thing is that I learned that I am a good businesswoman. I had no idea I was, because I came from the serving world, know that business was my jam. So that's kind of cool that I learned that about myself throughout the process as well. There's so many different things to real estate, and there's so many different things. And when I say that, I mean, like, you think that being a realtor, it's like, oh, I buy and sell houses and that's it. But I feel like there's so many different things you can do within the real estate industry that would fit different personality types, right? So you might like real estate. Say, for example, Cheryl, she loves real estate, but she doesn't want to be an agent anymore, but she does love real estate and she loves helping people. So now she's going to transition into being an admin. But if she didn't get into real estate and learn that about herself, then she wouldn't have known that she actually would fit the admin role in real estate better than being a realtor. For myself, I again got my real estate license thinking I was going to be an agent forever. And now that I run the team, I love running the team, and I love helping people grow and become financially independent. And I feel like my goal in the real estate industry is to actually step out, run the team, and run a coaching program. And then there's other people who really like listings and they just want to be a listing realtor, and other people who like buyers and they just want to be a buyer's agent. So even though real estate has like one big heading, I feel like there's so many different things you can do within that umbrella. And I think it's really cool for people to get started and figure out where they actually fall and then kind of go after that. Do you regret any? Well, you've only started, Alicia, but do you regret anything so far? Or you?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
But you can feel
There's always
something coming.
something. Like there's always going to be something that you wish you did different, but I don't know. You can't change it. You just, like you said, you just learn from it because it's a step on the path you need to be on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, the way I think it works for almost everyone is that people can tell you not to do something or do something differently, but you have to just figure it out on your own, make your own mistakes.
I am glad that I got into it though, because like there were a number of people who were like, don't do it, like it's commission only. And like, I mean, the traditional mindset of like our parents is very like, go get a job from 9 to 5, work there for 20, like work there
Get
for
a
the next
pension,
year,
like,
get your
yeah.
right? Like, and it was trying to get into the industry and like I mean, I was younger, I guess I was 23, I think, when I got it, like when I decided to get my license. And so like, I do remember like having like my family, like in the back of my head being like, I don't know, it's like not super stable and this and this and this. And anyways, I'm glad that I did just do what I wanted to do instead of like listening to them. So anybody who is watching this, like, if there's something you want to do, I feel like you should definitely just jump on and do it, because the crabs in the bucket mentality is real.
And I'm like the switch
Oh.
side. Like my kids were, well, my daughter was just a baby when I started my course. My son was not quite 2. So I feel like it wasn't the ideal time, like jump to a new career. Like I was coming off of maternity leave and I just basically, I've like talked about real estate for years and years and just like could never take the plunge. And then I just like, after my maternity leave was almost up, I just was like to my husband, I'm like, I don't want to go back there. Like, I don't want to go back there. And he was like, okay, then don't. And I'm like, but I've like never been unemployed. So that also like wasn't an option. And then I was like, well, I'll do my course. Like, and I'm really glad I did. But yeah, it was definitely tough to juggle the kids. Like they're only 4 and 2 now, which is still a small circus, but yeah, like there's never going to be a good, I don't know. There's never going to be like a right time.
I don't think that there is. I think you gotta jump in.
And on some days I'm like, God, I wish I would have done it earlier, like when I really thought about it. But on the flip side, like having 2 kids and like financial responsibility, like I feel like I was like, I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it right, because I know that technically older and wiser, and just like knowing that, like, I don't know, I feel like I appreciated it more at this stage of my life.
Yeah, that's fair.
And like more a bigger why of why.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think like, and I'm not even a real estate agent, but just listening and seeing people in the industry, I think a big thing is not just expecting overnight success without putting in. And that's just a huge thing in our society right now anyways, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of like comparison, because you see things on social media and people are doing so well, but not seeing the steps that it took them to get to that point. So I think it's really important to like keep in mind, like just keep your nose to the grind and like keep going, and you will get there, but just don't expect it to just fall into your lap.
There's a lot of instant gratification that people are searching for sure. And this is not the industry for that. You know, the reel that people keep playing, and it's like, let's skip to the good part. And then it goes from like the before to like the after, and it's like instant. There's a new one that says, let's skip to the good part. And then it actually goes like a record player goes like, and it's like, just actually, that's not the way that this works. Like,
yeah. But I think that sometimes people get lucky or whatever, like, especially probably starting when the industry was insane. That was probably like pretty cool to get so many sales and things were happening so fast. I think there is a bit of luck to things, and things will fall in your lap once in a while.
I always call them gravy. There's like gravy leads that come in where they like buy really quickly, and it does happen. It's just like you just can't rely on them.
Yeah, don't expect that.
Take it as a bonus, because a lot of them you're going to actually have to nurture for a while, like 6 months to a year, which isn't a bad thing either. But anyways, you're out of time. I don't know. I don't know. I thought this format was kind of fun. It was cool to like have like open discussion about things. And I do feel like it was entertaining having some of the not joke questions, but like the embarrassing stories one. That was kind of funny.
A little bit of real life.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah, I thought the format was fun. So thank you guys. Okay, well, I'll let you guys go for the day. If there's any questions you guys think about that we can do for next month, because Callie wants to run this again, and I think it was fun, so I think it would be cool too. We write them down and discuss, and then we'll do another one. Bye, guys. Enjoy your Wednesday.